Panthers take game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final. Edmonton down 0-2, headed back home. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On NHL podcast. We are your team every day. And we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms, whether you listen on your phone, on your laptop, in the car, or if you are one of our YouTube viewers listening on your computer, or popping the podcast on your TV while you're on the couch. Wherever you listen, we thank you for tuning in each and every day of the week. Today's episode of Locked On NHL is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets. $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. On today's episode of Locked On NHL, we take a look at some of the reasons that the Edmonton Oilers have fallen behind 0-2 in the Stanley Cup Final after losing Game 2 to Florida. We'll take a look at Leon Draisaitl's struggles, as well as some of that frustration being taken out during the game. And the impenetrable fortress that was the Edmonton Oilers power penalty kill finally took a hit. And so we'll talk about all that and how the Oilers are embracing the underdog mentality once again. My name is Seth, Toupal, host of Locked On Wilds, joined for your Western Conference Tuesday by JD Young of Locked On Sharks. JD, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Where are you at after the Edmonton Oilers lose game 2? They fall behind in the series 2-0. What stood out for you in the game 2 loss for the Edmonton Oilers?
You have to be, if you're an Oilers fan, you have to be panicking, right? Because you go back to game 1, and they threw the kitchen sink. Everything they had at the Panthers, and Bobrovsky was lights out. Game 2, the Panthers actually showed up to play, and Skinner played well. I thought played well enough to win this game. But it was kind of like we talked about with last series, where you have the Dallas depth versus the Edmonton Stars. And right now, it's just like the Panthers are just outgrinding Edmonton. Like, they don't mind playing a dirty, like not dirty, but like a physical, grinded out type of game. And they think that they just have the guys who can produce at the biggest moments. And so far they've been right. I think that's what's surprising to me is, one, how physical the series has been, especially from the get-go. And the Panthers have definitely thrown their weight around in this series. And credit to Edmonton, who has been, kind of moved away from a finesse team to try to add some more of that grit to them. But I don't know if they were ready for what the Panthers were bringing, and they have brought it, especially after a slow game 1. I thought game 2 was more Panthers hockey that we've seen all season.
It's frustrating for Edmonton because you look at how this game started, and much like Edmonton had that just sizable advantage in the shots department, you look up in the early part of the game, Florida's up 6-0 in shots. Edmonton scores on their first shot of the game. And so even though Florida was controlling the offense, controlling the puck, Edmonton still had that 1-0 lead. But on the Florida side, just like they have done at points throughout the entire postseason, at pretty much all season, they just continue to pepper away. And it was kind of in the back of my head watching that as Florida continued to just pepper the net, you kind of felt like it was coming. You kind of felt like there was going to be at least the equalizer. And it ended up that Florida did score to tie the game, and then all of a sudden they took the lead. They add to it, and so it's much of the same story as we saw in game one. It's just Sergei Bobrovsky has been better than Stuart Skinner, and it was the same thing again. Now, Oilers' goal was through an area that they were trying to really pinpoint in game one, through the 5-hole, and so you get that early one, but this is the thing that those veteran goalies do is they adjust. Okay, you beat me there. Well, you're not going to beat me there again. And where did Stuart Skinner get beat in this game? He got beat up high.
Yep.
Florida Panthers were able to take advantage of some of those high spots, and you come away with the 2 goals. You add an empty netter to it, and then next thing you know, it's 4-1. And the thing that's crazy to me, I saw this statistic before we hopped on to record. Can you guess the number of high danger chances the Oilers generated in this game?
It's pretty. I think it's pretty low. It was 1. Wow, I was gonna say like 5, and I thought that was gonna be that was conservative. 1. That is
one single high danger chance, and none
at 5v5. I assume.
Yep, none in 5-on-5.
None at 5 on. Wow. Oof.
That's that is, if you want to take any little thing away from this game, I think that's the one that's most concerning, because you need your offense to be able to get to that spot in front of Sergei Bobrovsky if you're going to beat him. Those perimeter shots, those one and dones, those are not going to get it done. Those are not going to get you goals in this series. You have to get the puck down low and be able to just continue to push the pace and attack Bobrovsky up close. And Edmonton just has not been able to do that. That's a huge credit to this Florida defense for being able to keep those areas clean. But yeah, 1 high danger chance for the Edmonton Oilers and none in 5-on-5. That for me, that would probably be the area that I'd be most concerned about as this series unfolds.
To be fair, though, like, credit to the Edmonton defense, because you held the mighty Florida Panthers to 4 high danger chances at 5v5. So this has become a very much a grinded out type of series. And I think, to be honest, as well as Edmonton's kind of defense has transformed, especially of this playoffs, I still think that favors the Panthers. If this turns into you wonder if the Panthers, or not if the Oilers, if they might need to turn it back to the okay, we're just going to win 5-4 type of games that brought them success in previous years. If you might just need to kind of let the dogs out and let them go, because you've done everything right. The first game you put up a bajillion shots, you couldn't score a goal. This game your offense gets smothered, and you're able to score 1 goal on a 4-on-4 situation. I wonder if they're going to have to try to change something up here. If they go heavy with the Draisaitl McDavid and just say, you know what, we're going with this line. You guys are our best line. You guys need to carry the load. And if they just try to become a 1-line team and say, this is we're going to go down. We're going to go down swinging with our 2 best players.
I think that's not a bad spot to start, because I look at it this way. If you can get something really hot going with McDavid and Draisaitl to where, because and we'll talk about this more here in a little bit, but you get both McDavid and Draisaitl going, you can potentially move that to the first 2 lines, kind of get them both going by getting the 2 of them going together. But at this point, I saw comments after the game from Chris Knobloch about, it's not the time to panic. It's not the time to make any sort of major changes, but respectfully,
it is.
You're down 2-0 in the Stanley Cup Final, and so you
can't go down 3-0 against this Florida team. This game 3 is must win. If you lose game 3, it's over, Anakin. They have the high ground. It's over. Even though my team has been reverse swept, I've seen it. There's no way. There's no way this Florida Panthers team, especially with Bobrovsky the way he's playing and all the guys, if Edmonton loses game 3, this thing is over. It's a wrap.
Yeah, it's you have to start playing like you've got no tomorrow if you're going to come back in the series. And to Edmonton's credit, they've said all the right things and that they're not panicking, that they're looking forward to everybody doubting them as the series unfolds. But like from a tactical standpoint, don't be afraid to start pulling out all the stops, because
it's getting late very early here for Edmonton.
Yeah,
especially the way that again, your offense, you scored 1 goal in 120 minutes. That's Sharks level bad, baby.
Yeah, it's not great, and it's led to some frustration on the ice. We'll talk about Leon Draisaitl's 2-minute roughing penalty that probably should have been a little more than that. And we'll also talk about another hit that happened early in the game. Department of Player Safety might be asking for some checks here over the next couple of days. We'll talk about that as we continue today's episode of Locked On NHL. Today's episode of the Locked On NHL podcast is brought to you by Policy Genius. Folks, the world of life insurance is a tricky one for even those that know what they're looking for to navigate. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary medical exams. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection for you or your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Get peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com. Policygenius.com. Welcome back to today's episode of the Locked On NHL podcast. Once again, we are your team every day, and no matter the way that you listen to us, we thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. After today's video, make sure you swing over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 streaming channel so that you can get your full fix of sports without all this screaming. I was listening to the 4-Letter Network talking about some of the stuff going on in the WNBA lately. Guess
Exhausting.
What? They were screaming at each other.
Exhausting. No.
So Locked On Sports Today has you covered all of the analysis you want. Every sport. They've got you covered 24/7 for free and free of screaming. So make sure to check it out on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. All right, so we got a couple of George Paros's phone, I would imagine, may have started to blow up a little bit.
Straight to voicemail.
It's off. He's got notifications quieted. He's in do not disturb mode. And so all of these people saying, "Hey, you should get ready for disciplinary hearings potentially in the morning." They're just all going straight to voicemail. But in all seriousness, let's start with Draisaitl's hit, because I'm very anxious to hear your thoughts on the first hit, but I want to start with the Draisaitl one because
it's Draisaitl.
Because it's Draisaitl. And because you can kind of piece the dots together as to what has happened through the first couple of games of the series. It clearly, to me, looked like it was just trying to let some frustration out. It's pretty clear that he goes high.
He
leapt. Goes high to deliver the hit, which they were talking about it during the broadcast. Sean McDonough, love him. They were talking about it on the broadcast, talking about how this should probably be a 5, and then they gave him a 2 for roughing. But as we've talked about with Department of Player Safety all season, we know what's going to happen. That
$5,000, the maximum by the CBA. I'm sure that tweet will be out about 9 a.m. Pacific time, new lunchtime for East Coast. Yeah. And as of Elliot Friedman, like, as we're recording this, Paul Maurice says no update on Barkov. So that's, if Barkov is out, that's a huge blow. But yeah, I mean, back to Draisaitl. I did not have Draisaitl going full heel on my my bingo card because he seems like a very well-liked player. You've never seen anything like this out of Draisaitl. But yeah, I wonder if there wasn't a 5-minute major or the first period, if they would have called the 5-minute major. And that's a terrible way to ref, because if you call 1-5, I thought it was very much worth a 5-minute major. It's worth the suspension. He won't get suspended, like you said. 1, because it's the finals, and 2, he's one of the 2 best players on the ice. I mean, if you stack up the both rosters, I would probably go McDavid, Draisaitl 1, 2, and then a bunch of Panthers players. But yeah, I thought it was inexcusable, to be honest. Something that, and I know you're frustrated. You're getting your butt kicked here, but that is, if it was the other way around, Oilers fans would be, wanting Barkov's head on a pike out in front of Edmonton, and you wonder if it was a guy like Jacob Trouba, or another, or if it was like an Evander Kane, guys who have a little bit more of history with plays like that, if we would have seen a 5-minute / suspension. But like you said, I fully expect to see the $5,000 fine maximum by the CBA tweet here in the morning.
There were a couple of others throughout the game that also drew some attention. Now, the one late was just like absolutely unhinged, because you have Dmitry Kulikov come flying in to levy a hit, and then he takes a low blow high stick, if you catch my drift. And that leads to players being shown the door. You have it nearly was a knee on knee earlier, like right away to start the game, that led to a player for Florida nearly, like, he left the game for quite a while. It led to a game misconduct on the Edmonton side. There's a lot of potential discipline that could be coming from this game, in addition to the Leon Draisaitl hit.
Yeah, there is, but again, I don't see the NHL in the biggest spot games of the year suspending guys. If this was January and this happened, yes, you're probably seeing a game suspension here and there, just trying to keep things even. But this is the final game's here. I know, and it's tough that games are ref differently. But if this happened and then guys were suspended, you and I'd be talking about how, okay, now what's going to happen? These guys suspended. These are potential game series changing events if these guys are suspended. So it's tough you want player safety, you want players to play safe and stuff. But for, we can't have both ways, where we're wanting guys to be safe, but then also the entertainment value of it. And we want to see the best players out there playing in the biggest moments here. And, you go back, you and I being a little bit older here, you go back to the Phoenix Suns, when they got a bunch of their guys suspended, they lost that series, and you go talk about how the Phoenix Suns never were able to get over the hump. Draisaitl gets suspended even for a game. You go back to Edmonton. We just talked 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago about, if Edmonton loses game 3, this thing is over. If they don't have Draisaitl, this thing's probably over. So I fully expect that I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe send out a memo to the players, be like, let's calm down. We get it. Let's calm down, guys. But we don't want to be put into a situation where we have to make one of these decisions. So I would also expect a very tightly refed game to start game 3. where maybe they try to kind of take some of the steam out of what's been going on. So that'd be my guess.
If you're Edmonton, you maybe don't necessarily worry about being put on the penalty kill, at least up until game 2, because the Oilers special teams has been on an absolute tear. Power play, though, not so much. So we'll talk about flipping the special teams battle for the Oilers, as well as a look at what we've seen from Stuart Skinner so far. That's all on the way as we continue today's episode of Locked On NHL after this.
It's winner take all time in the NBA, NHL, and summertime also means baseball, and you can bet it all on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. There's $200 that you can bet on everything from the Finals MVP. Also, if you think Vamos Gatos in Game 3, or if you think the Oilers make this a series, if you think Dallas, the Mavs, if they can make it a series against the Boston Celtics, or like I said, maybe you just want to go as Seth said, just bet against the White Sox or the Rockies, and you'll probably do fine there as well. So you can go put $5 down, you win, you get $200 that you can bet on. A bunch of fun stuff. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Welcome back to today's episode of the Locked On NHL podcast. Once again, we are your team every day. I'll do you one better. If you take my guaranteed $5 bet and go against either the Rockies or the White Sox and you lose, tag me on Twitter at Seth, TOUPS, to make me feel bad and you feel better for
what happens if they play each other?
Boy, that's a great question, because in that case, I feel like you just pick the over.
Do you bet the over or the under in that series? Because you could talk to me either way.
It depends on where it's at. If it's in Colorado, take the over. If it's not, take the under. Yeah, that was a great curveball. I was not expecting. But again, that's why we're here. You know, if you want an easy way to get those bonus bets so that you can throw them at the rest of the Stanley Cup Final, White Sox, Rockies, take the opponent. If you do that and it doesn't work, tag me on Twitter. All right, let's talk about the Oilers special teams, because the penalty kill was on an absolute heater coming into. And look, with the amount of penalties that were called in this game, the amount of power play opportunities, the fact that the Oilers penalty kill gave up one power play goal, it's maybe not anything that you need to be concerned about. But honestly, if it's me, the fact that the Oilers were 0 for on the power play again, and that has been a struggle point for them over the last few series, that's one area where they really need to pick it up if they're going to, forget how the rest of the series goes. The only thing that Edmonton should be worried about right now is Game 3. Win Game 3 and then take it from there. If you want an easy way to get back into Game 3, 1 or 2 power play goals will go a long way.
No, I agree. And even the penalty kill, I know they gave up 1 tonight and they went, but still Florida was 1 for 6. And even that, it was like, it hasn't been the hasn't been the cleanest power plays from Florida. It was the second unit there who was able to kind of crack through, but you're not seeing like the big that first unit from Florida really kind of controlling the power play. But yeah, if Edmonton, if they get back in the series, they're going to have to ride the back of their power play, which has been a no-show so far. And credit to the Panthers and that stingy defense and Bobrovsky, who's been kind of making big saves when he's had to. But if Edmonton, like you said, if they get the power play clicking, I think that's their ticket to winning Game 3 and kind of getting back into the series, because we've seen that power play be lethal all season long, and it's just kind of hit that cold streak right now. And you I don't know if they need to shake things up, or they just kind of keep hammering away at it and seeing if they can get things going. But yeah, the power play being this bad is a huge reason why they're down 0-2 right now.
Let's talk about Stuart Skinner a little bit. It's interesting because you look at what happened in the Dallas series. So the Oilers win Game 1, the double OT thriller. They lose games 2 and 3, and Skinner gives up 6 goals in those 2 games. So spread out over 2 games, 3 goals per is not terrible. He's given up 5 goals over the last 2 games. But here's the thing. Here is the rub, is that while Stuart Skinner hasn't been bad, he hasn't been awful by any stretch.
No.
The goalie he's going up against has been better. And so that is a situation where, like it or not, Stuart Skinner is going to need to find a way to kind of leapfrog Sergei Bobrovsky, and it starts with just cleaning up some of those areas. Like those 2 goals that were given up tonight. The one was they called it a shooter's goal that just kind of eluded his glove, and then you had the other one where they went up high. Like you gotta just, you don't have to keep it out of the net entirely. You just got to find a way to get a piece.
Yeah, and especially where like the goals have been these like low danger goals, natural Satric. Again, like we mentioned, the Panthers didn't generate a ton of high danger chances, but like if you're giving up 1 high danger goal on 4 chances, like that's a tough look. But then tonight he gave up 2 low danger ones, which is not great. Usually you want those low danger chances to be up where the high 90s at least for a save percentage, and his was below 900. So I think for Stuart Skinner, you need to kind of clean some of that stuff up there. But again, it's not like he's played bad. I think it's just he hasn't been able to make the most of his opportunities here. And we haven't really had that like Stuart Skinner, like I'm just going to steal a game like we saw from him, especially in the Dallas series where he outplayed Jake Ottinger. And I think so far this series, it's easily been Bobrovsky that has been the better goalie in this series.
Just looking at some of the other things that have stood out over these last couple of games. I mean, obviously the fact that the offense has only scored 1 goal, that's kind of a problem. But again, it's a situation too where, for the most part, in Game 1, we felt like the Oilers did a good job of generating. They just weren't able to get anything past Bobrovsky. And you look at what happened in Game 2, and it just felt like everything was kind of pulled further out. And so if I'm kind of putting my coach hat on and saying, like, what does Edmonton need to do in order to pull this to 2-1 in Game 3? I would start by just planting a few people right in front of Bobrovsky and just really make an emphasis to trying to get to the net and trying to deflect those pucks past. Like if you can get somebody right in front of a goalie and deflect a shot, makes it infinitely harder for that goalie to make a save. But Edmonton's just got to start trying to get people to the net with authority, like baseline there, and then let McDavid and Draisaitl do their things beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Hyman has been quiet, Have you even heard Zach Hyman's name really mentioned and what's he really good at doing? Parking himself in front of the net and scoring those greasy goals. That is, what he does well. And then you think about a guy like Evander Kane, who's got that power forward mentality of just kind of putting his head down and taking to the net. Evander Kane, he played a whopping 10:33 tonight. Like, I know he's a little bit further down the depth chart. I know he's kind of dealing with some stuff, but he was brought here to score help score goals. And that's what he does, is kind of score those greasy, power forward type of goals. And I would, again, those two guys, or you wonder if maybe a guy like Corey Perry scores the greasiest of greasy goals. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Corey Perry's back in the lineup, and especially if to try to just make things harder for Bobrovsky and kind of grease things up. So that I wouldn't be surprised if that's kind of where they go. But yeah, it's been surprising to see Edmonton's offense just not being able to generate anything really, especially in this game.
Yeah, and you talk about the adjustments. Like, in game one, it felt like Florida really tried to impose their will physically to try to slow down the Oilers offensively, and it worked. Game two, it felt like the Oilers tried to kind of match that, which is not their style. That's not really how they're built. They can do it, but it's not their forte. So getting back to kind of what they want to do, which is to just push it, pedal to the metal, full throttle. They get back to that. That should help.
Guess how much, before we get out of here, guess how much time Evan Bouchard played in this game?
1 minute, 32 seconds.
30 minutes and 40 seconds of this game.
Oh, boy.
Evan Bouchard was on the ice for 30, 40, and then Darnell Nurse play, which I know he's been a hot topic in this game. 420, bro. He played 420.
Yikes. Yeah, I for some reason had Evan Bouchard mixed up with Warren Fogle.
Warren Fogle did not play very much, but Darnell, Evan Bouchard played all the minutes in this game.
Jeepers. That's so many. But you have a couple people thrown out of the game and lines get all messed up. Nurse gets hurt. Like, it's that leads to some odd line disparities. So we'll see. As Edmonton themselves said, they are going to enjoy everybody counting them out of this series.
Does Edmonton win game 3? I'll ask you before how we'll finish up here.
I say no.
I say yes. I think Edmonton does win game 3. But I think it's like I said, I think it's gonna be more of a track beat in this game. So yeah, I got Edmonton game 3, but I think Florida wins game 4.
I have the opposite. I think Edmonton will win game 4. Like, we have no choice. We gotta take care of this. So we both agree that the Oilers will be headed back to Florida down 3-1. Just hanging on for dear life. And we'll see. We did this exact same thing in the series against Dallas, and look what happened. So
we are noted idiots. So
if you're an Oilers fan and you're looking for a lightning rod to get your team back into this series, we may have just provided it for
guys.
You. So we do this out of love, and we'll
and
see
making money off the White Sox.
Yeah, we'll just be happy that I gave you that. Just be happy that I gave you that tidbit to help cope with falling behind 0-2. We'll see what happens, and we'll either be wrapping the series up next week or talking about a win or go home situation for the Oilers, depending on how things play out over the next couple of games. But that will do it for today's episode of Locked On NHL. We thank you once again for making Locked On NHL your first listen each and every day. Make sure you hit the like button on YouTube and subscribe, as well as following us on your favorite audio platforms so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week, which we have for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.